Flooding is a major problem today as Hurricane Floyd makes its way up the East Coast. We'll take a more complete look at the happenings coming up. We'll talk a little more about Floyd, too, and the fact that it's dumping record amounts of rain, in effect ending the drought. Good afternoon and welcome to this very special edition of Weather Center. I'm Paul Emick. Conditions across the country are coming up, but let's get right to the forecast center now with Rich Johnson. He has the latest on Floyd.
Well, as we check the latest on Floyd, obvious now that Floyd has made more of a turn off the north, now northeast, as it's heading right up along the mid-Atlantic and now heading toward the southern New England coast. So what we saw not very long ago for many of you across southern New England, the mid-Atlantic, in a severe drought. We saw some rain. Now much more is coming. Of course, yesterday, today, and a little bit tomorrow, too. Let me update you on some of the situations in the Northeast. Floyd definitely making a profound impact. In New York City, officials have closed schools and urged businesses to send workers home early. In New Jersey, they've declared a state of emergency. Public schools have been closed for the day, and state workers have been ordered home. In Connecticut, the governor there is sending all non-essential state workers home in anticipation of Floyd. And the biggest problem throughout the Northeast is the flooding accompanying Floyd. So a lot of problems associated with this hurricane, which probably will be downgraded to a tropical storm sometime today. But now the major impact is flooding. We'll talk a little bit more about that with Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert. Let me show you the latest that we have. First of all, our satellite photograph. The center of circulation basically made its way over to around eastern North Carolina. Now it looks like it's heading off the coast of Virginia and should be a beam of Maryland and Delaware as it races northward. Latest information from the Hurricane Center, 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight. We do have Floyd at that point stationed near Virginia Beach. It is obviously farther north now. It is moving north-northeast rapidly at 24 miles per hour. Here's the hurricane warnings, which are still in effect. I do expect that later today sometime we will see updates to the hurricane warnings and the tropical storm warnings, which cover a significant part of the mid-Atlantic and the northeastern United States coastline. Well, joining me right now is Dr. Greg Forbes. Greg, as we continue to follow the hurricane, we talked a lot yesterday about the aspect of tornadoes. There's today, though, shifting over to flooding, big impact from flooding.
There sure is, Rich. Today, the major problem from flooding going up from Iran just a little bit to the southeast of Washington, D.C., up through the Philadelphia area, Allentown, Pennsylvania, up toward parts of the New York City area, going into western Connecticut, and later heading up toward New England. We can see here the flash flood warnings. All of these counties all along the East Coast here are under warnings. It's raining basically. These are warnings based on the current rain. These are left over from rain that has fallen, 12 or more inches in North Carolina. Over the next several days, that water is going to run off into the rivers and to cause record flooding. The Tar River, for example, even as late as Monday is forecasted to flood and cause flooding in the community of Greenville. We'll have a similar type of problem all along the East Coast. The heaviest rain is falling in a swath just paralleling the storm track and inland, as I indicate, just southeast of Washington, D.C., headed up toward the Philadelphia area, and going from 7 inches or so down in the southeast of Washington up to where it's just begun in western Connecticut, 2 inches or more, and we can expect at least 6 inches in some of these places additional.
All right, thanks, Greg. Again, that's Dr. Greg Forbes with the latest information that we have, our severe weather expert here at the Weather Channel. Well, we do have crews stationed up and down the eastern United States, the seaboard there. We have 2 live crews here. One is in Sullivan's Island, Maryland, and also at Point Lookout, we have Jim Cantori, where the wind is starting to blow. Right now, though, let's head farther to the south and start with Bill. Bill, what's the latest that you have for us?
Well, Rich, we're all feeling very waterlogged down here, and I think we have a right to be. We've had about 10 inches of rain so far today. Everybody said how they wish we had a tropical storm to get rid of the drought. Well, we have conquered that issue now, folks. It's too bad it didn't happen, say, in early June rather than middle September. I don't know if the farmers can recoup their losses at this stage of the game. The good news is that other than very, very heavy rainfall, the wind damage has been relatively minimal here. There are some trees down. There's some high water from the rainwater, but the tidal surge was not to be. That's great news. We had a northeast wind that started backing around, though, to the northwest. That should keep all the really high water over on the eastern shore. I want to show you some video we shot earlier, Rich. A lot of folks here in the greater Washington area come down here for the weekends, and there's a lot of marinas here. That was a big fear. A lot of folks have a lot of money invested in these boats, and everybody was doing what they could to shore up their boats. And again, the boats rocked pretty good. The tide came up pretty high, but we've not had any kind of really serious or catastrophic flooding. Now that said, there is a high tide tonight around 8 o'clock, so we'll have to watch that area. But behind me, the Patuxent River, and it flows into the Chesapeake. The waves are picking up, but the wind is now starting to pull a lot of that water out into the Chesapeake, so the flooding concern here should be relatively minimal. So Rich, we're holding our own, and now we'll get back to you.
All right, now let's also head up the coast a little ways toward Long Island. Jim Cantori standing by, and Jim, the wind, it looks like it's picking up where you are.
It really has, Rich. We just got our first gust to tropical storm force within the last 5 minutes, and winds now sustained easily at about 20 to 30 miles an hour. I got the handheld anemometer here, and I have to turn it a little bit toward the camera so that we can see it. So it's not exactly perpendicular to the wind. So just add maybe 2-3 miles an hour on top of the reading that you see here. I have no idea what that is, obviously, because I'm behind it, but you know, no doubt up around 30 miles an hour. And sure enough, we expect those winds to continue to increase. Now, as a result of this, the city is pretty much taking precautions. We've had areas like Fire Island. We've had areas like Sandy Hook, New Jersey. A lot of the Hamptons, out in East Hampton, for example, have been evacuated with mandatory evacuations there. A lot of schools have been let out early today. So they have been ready for this storm, and no doubt we're ready to deal with the worst of it tonight. At least at this point, we've got a break in the rain, Rich. But you're right, the wind has really increased over the last half hour, and I would expect it's going to continue to increase through the afternoon. Back to you, Rich.
All right, Jim, thanks for the report. Now let's head over to our expert desk with Dr. Steve Lyons. Steve, we talked a little bit about Norfolk getting a bit of a surge. Do you have any other information about that?
Haven't heard anything else about it other than the fact that the system is moving on to the northeast, so I think any surge that happened there is probably finished or is at its worst and is declining now. Do have some information, the 2 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Let me give you that information. Position 37.8 north, 75.2 west. That's just east of Chesapeake, Virginia. It's moving to the north-northeast now at 29 miles per hour, so it continues to accelerate as we expected. It's really moving off fast. Pressure's 974 millibars, and the wind is 75 miles per hour. So now it's about as low a hurricane as you can get, but keep in mind the tropical storm force winds now are not going to go down very fast at all as it moves to the northeast. Now looking at the infrared water vapor image, you can see this low pressure trough coming down here and really swinging it off very quickly, heading it off just offshore Atlantic City and then on toward the area just offshore of Long Island and zooming off toward Cape Cod over the next 24 hours or so, and we expect that to continue. Now here was the rainfall totals down in Virginia, southern Virginia and northern North Carolina. You can see that they're no longer moving down here. That means the rainfall has ceased there. There's no more rainfall falling, only up in northern portions, a little bit falling near Richmond and along the coast there. But as we go northward now, here's the accumulations here along the areas associated with Baltimore, and also over here near Wilmington, Dover, down here's near Salisbury. Rain still accumulating there, and as we go farther north, we have even more accumulations up here in Boston, Philadelphia. You're really accumulating rain rapidly now, so watch out for potential rapid street flooding along those areas. It's really getting rather nasty. And then off even into the northeast near Portland, Maine, you're starting to accumulate rain. So rainfall is the big issue now, some local coastal flooding, and rain and heavy surf coming toward Long Island about 3 hours after the circulation center hits. Back to you in the studio, Rich.
All right, Steve, we'll check back with you just about another half an hour. That's Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert. Let me tell you a little bit more about what's going on in Delaware, some of the impact from Hurricane Floyd. Delaware is seeing its fair impact from the Floyd. State of emergency has been declared. The National Guard, state police, and emergency crews have been put on alert in anticipation of damaging winds, also heavy rain. Also, Delaware has recommended closing schools and urged residents to evacuate flood-prone areas along Long Neck, Kitts Hummock, and Little Creek. So, of course, there's also some problems in the state of Delaware, as many areas in the Mid-Atlantic are experiencing. And let me show you some of the scenes from the state of Delaware. Bus fell victim to the heavy rain and flooding in Wilmington. In fact, in one 45-minute period, Wilmington saw 1 inch of rain. So far, more than 5 inches of rain has fallen, and it's, of course, not over yet. Floyd is expected to dump more rain on Delaware right on through this evening as it's heading up the coast. If you're going to be away from your TV set and you want to stay updated with Floyd, you can check the latest information out on your computer at weather.com. Now let's head back to Paul Emick. He has more about the rest of the nation.
All right, thanks so much, Rich. Elsewhere across the country, some good news around Chicago, even Detroit, Minneapolis. Thanks to high pressure and a nice big dome of stability, it's going to be a great day here. Across the plains, though, still a few showers persist. Panhandle of Texas, maybe eventually toward the Big D. We could bring some rain our way. Wet across Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, and the prospect of a few showers or storms in Kansas might eventually work our way toward Kansas City as well. Elsewhere across the western U.S., not much taking place right now. A few sprinkles here and there, but throughout the afternoon, expect that activity to kick up. A little monsoonal moisture may make a return. We'll stay a little bit wet in the west. Let's look at our country coast to coast. The current map indicates the happenings here with our wet weather across the plains, but the worst of it still throughout the northeast. Okay, where do we go from here? Let's have a look now at the forecast. Moving on from the current map, we'll head on to the evening hours with our heavy rainfall. Still expect to be a huge problem as we just detailed throughout the northeast, New York City, Boston, Hartford, Providence, even D.C. and Baltimore. Otherwise, a little bit wet in the western U.S. with the scattered showers, but obviously New England will really be our problem spot. Heaviest rainfall parts of Texas, maybe 1 to 3 inches, but a lot more than that. With the dumping rains continue, a lot of tropical moisture still to come down, between 5 and 10 inches, including parts of PA. We could be rather hard hit with that. Here's a look at Thursday. Cooler temperatures for most of New England. A little warming across the west. A little bit chilly across the Great Lakes tonight. Nice change of pace. Just ahead, we'll look at all the wet weather and its impact on your travels and travel-wise right after your local forecast. Please stay tuned.
So precise. We're still trying to find a word more precise than precise. Intrigue. With state-of-the-art steering and suspension systems. Intrigue by Oldsmobile. Start to command performance. Start something.
When a weather disaster strikes, someone is always there to help. Project SafeSide urges you to help families in need of disaster relief. The Home Depot is a proud sponsor of Project SafeSide, a national severe weather awareness program.
Question: how do dermatologists visibly reduce the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines caused by the sun? With Neutrogena Anti-Wrinkle Cream. With retinol, the purest form of vitamin A, to work deeper within the skin surface, reducing the appearance of wrinkles. Neutrogena Anti-Wrinkle Cream.
It's allergy season. Be sure to pick up Tylenol Allergy Sinus.
Now, your local forecast on the Weather Channel.